I prefer not to use the mic, but if you guys cannot hear what I'm saying, just tell me. I'll speak louder. Is this volume okay? Yes? Okay. So, before I start, does anybody know what podiatry do? No, I don't. Okay, the next question is, any of you currently having diabetes or in the care of, or caring for anyone with diabetes currently? Yeah? Okay. Got this one. Sure. Okay, so I will start. Yes. Okay, okay. For the video, right? Okay. Okay. Can. And if I block anything, also tell me. Okay, so yes, the breakdown of my speech today will be introducing what podiatry does, and also going through diabetes foot care, and the interactive activity would be actually physically going through the shoe you wear so that you roughly know the features that are safe for people with diabetes. And the last bit will be the question and answer, which you can ask me anything you are not sure of to clarify. Okay, oh, yeah. Okay, all right. Sure. Yes. Okay, as for podiatrists, we take care of problems arising from the feet. So it ranges from like ingrowing toenails, this one, this area, and also for very curved nails, very thick nails, we can cut them, make them as safe as possible. I know that it's very difficult to cut nails like these because the tools that we have at home isn't really very appropriate. We also deal with corns and calluses in the feet due to various reasons like anatomical, the bone structure, really dry skin. These can form really quickly and cause certain discomfort when you are walking. Also, problems arising from flat feet. We can use insoles to change the posture of the feet so that optimize walking, give you all some comfort. And lastly would be wounds in the feet, and that happens with a lot of diabetes patients. So we will be providing the suitable dressings, cleaning up the wounds, giving patients advice on how to take care of it at home. And we'll periodically review wounds like this until it heals. Okay, so why is foot care important for patients with diabetes? As we all know, I think Singapore has about 400,000 people with diabetes. And with people with diabetes, okay, this is very wordy, but it's quite important. They do have problems with blood circulation, and at some point of time, quite a lot of them lose the feeling in their feet. This combined with weak immune systems, diabetes does also make you more prone to infections. These can cause the likelihood of amputations to be about 30 times higher than a normal person. So let's say about 15% of 400,000 people at any point of time would have wounds in their feet. That is about, 60,000 people already. And out of all of these wounds, 6 to 43% of them will eventually progress to amputation. That would be about maximum about 26,000 people. Out of all across their lives, all the diabetes patients that are currently living now would have had gone through something like that at some point of their lives. With that, actually, out of all the major amputations done to anybody in Singapore, which that major amputation means that at least half the shin has been removed. That accounts for 85%. Most of it is people with diabetes and having wounds. And sadly to say, once you have amputation, that doesn't mean it stops there. It can go on for 1/5 of that maximum over the next year. And another bad statistic would be for patients who have had diabetes, their mortality rate is a lot higher than normal people also. So post-amputation, about 1/5 of them do not survive past 1 year of amputation. So that's quite bad news. And also, not forgetting the price. This is very conservative estimates done by a doctor in Singapore. For patients who have had major amputations, the figure for the hospital stay, the surgery, the medication, the reviews amounts to close to a 5-figure sum. People who have had minor amputations, so maybe some toes get removed, half a foot gets amputated, the price is a bit less, but still very high. Okay. So has anybody, been given a foot care leaflet through polyclinics or anything like that? Anyone at all? No? Okay. I'll be passing you actually what I have been talking about, but what I'm going to say today is more detailed than what the paper pamphlets will be reminding you of. So, but the main thing for foot care, we are just looking at preventing any form of injuries and infections to the feet, because these two things would lead to wounds, ulcerations, and if in really severe cases, that's when you go to the hospital for something else to be done. So main thing is, yes, for patients with diabetes, we want to make sure the feet is cleaned every day, and especially to be dry in between the toes. I'll go through with that why this is important later. And also for moisturizing, very important. This helps to make sure the skin isn't too dry, because when you have dry skin, the skin can crack. You can get wounds from that as well. So another thing would be quite good to do, not in the form, not in the leaflet which I can pass to you all later, is let's say you want to clean the toes. Do not use toothpicks and stuff to dig through the toes. Use a toothbrush. That's gentle enough, and it can remove quite a lot of debris inside. And number two is for those who are going to try out new moisturizers, just to prevent any skin allergies happening in the foot. Try it on the hands or the arms first. Then you be able to see any reaction. If there is time to change the moisturizers. And do not apply moisturizer in between the toes. This is important because about 1/5 of the population will have athlete's foot. Very difficult to see for some of them. Just for untrained eye, this just looks like dry skin. But when you apply moisturizers to athletes, the skin that's affected by athlete's foot, you can cause the athlete's foot to spread even more. When that happens, more of your foot is weakened because the skin isn't very healthy. Do not apply in between the toes, and also to dry the skin in between the toes is because a really warm and moisturized environment in between the toes would lead to athlete's foot colonizing in between the toes. And this also may precede a wound. Okay. So yes, there is no responsibility for you to diagnose any skin problems, any routine visits to a doctor, and you're not very sure with what the skin problem is, just ask the doctor. That would be, I think, he will be able to provide medications or other products to use for the skin. This one, very importantly, because quite a lot of diabetes patients, yes. Sure, I'll go to that. It's right at the end. Yes, right at the end. I'll also be providing footwear pamphlets also, just to remind you guys again. For this one, quite a lot of diabetes patients have lost a sense of feeling. So we will not want to base any, let them just to say that their feet is safe just by feeling alone. It's very good to check the feet every day, especially in between the toes and below the foot, because that's where most people do not even notice a problem, especially when they don't feel anything. Okay, and cutting your nails. We would be advising our patients not to cut too deep, cut straight line across the toes, and whatever remaining, just file across the nail. We don't recommend cutting down the sides because that normally would cause injury. I also know that actually for some people, they're not very, well, confident in cutting their relatives' toes or their own toenails. In that case, actually, it's quite all right to use a nail file like this to just file over the nail. This is my toe actually. So I managed to file the nail from something quite long to something reasonably short, just by filing alone. It might take a bit of time, maybe about a minute or so, right? But you can do that quite safely actually. Just also don't forget, sometimes, well, if you do want to cut a nail that's a bit thicker than usual, you can file the top of the nail first to thin it down, and then you can proceed to cut on the nail clipper. That's perfectly fine. And also file the sides of the nail so that the edges don't get caught in your shoes, don't get caught in your socks, or sometimes if you want to use your foot to scratch your other leg, then if it's sharp, you will end up injuring your leg also. Mm-hmm. Okay, next would be, another thing is do not share nail files. Oh, sorry. Do not share nail files. One thing is just to prevent any spread of athlete's foot again, because 1 in 5 would have athlete's foot already. So just to prevent any spread from yourself to the next person or someone else to yourself. And yes, we can't stop people from going to pedicures, but we highly discourage, because most of the time the equipments they use, although it might be good to cut nails, might not be exactly very clean. So that one, if something adverse happens, you might get an infection quite easily also. Okay, yes. With corns and callus, it does happen in the general population, even non-diabetics as well. But for diabetes patients, we do not recommend the use of acid treatments, quite commonly prescribed in the polyclinics as well. We do not recommend that because just assuming that there is some impairment in the feeling already, quite a lot of these patients, they end up putting excessively and they end up with burns in the feet. The acid burn through the normal skin, it cause wounds to happen again. We would recommend the first line is actually using moisturizer with a bit of urea inside. That actually can soften the callus and corn a lot. And hopefully quite a good amount of these hard skin can drop off once they are quite well moisturized. And do not use these blades to cut any hard skin. Another thing, actually, to reduce the calluses and corn also, you can use these pumice stones or even nail files like the previous slides. You can run something like this over the callus. It will help to remove quite a lot of skin also. Just that perhaps if the skin is too thick, then it's quite impossible. Podiatry, well, if there is something quite significant, we do have clinics to run to remove hard skin actually. So it's by referral only, so your main doctor has to refer you in. Okay, yes, another thing, same thing, do not share such devices again, because you can spread athlete's foot to one another. And I know some of you guys would be quite keen to buy the mechanized, motorized ones. Be quite careful because those are really easy to use and you might end up over-grinding the hard skin. Yes, another thing is we cannot say that 100% wounds will not happen to a patient with diabetes. For wound care, the standard procedure is to have the wounds as dry as possible and covered at all times. So after the initial wash, apply some antiseptic and cover it up at all times. It's going to be quite troublesome, but the best practice for wound care would be to keep the wound as dry as possible, even during the shower. Some patients have problems with that, I understand. The only thing is if water from the tap enters the wound, bacteria will follow through, and that will also be quite a good opportunity for the foot to get infected through the wound itself. So there are ways to get it dry, keep it dry during shower, but one thing is quite simply is to tie a plastic bag and fasten the opening with a Scotch tape. Also, some of them would like to also perhaps put on some plastic gloves over the foot. That will also keep it quite waterproof. The danger with waterproof dressings, the material is definitely waterproof, but sometimes or rather when you apply it on the wound, it might not be a very good seal. That's why even though you have waterproof dressings, water might go in as well. And because you're only filling the outside, you will not be able to really see what's going on inside whether or not it gets too soggy or not. So we do not recommend waterproof dressing because most of the time you get this false sense of security that actually is not exactly very safe also. So something like this, right? This plastic film here around the wound, there are products like this outside. We would not exactly recommend to use that also. Naturally, wounds will also be producing its own fluid to come out. That is quite natural. Sometimes because you're only filling the outside of the dressing, the foot might be totally soggy inside just because of the liquid coming out. When it gets too wet, the surrounding skin also gets really weak and easy to get the wound to get bigger because of that as well. Yes, then, yes, correct? To keep it open, right? This thing, yes. Yes, hard to say without any medical opinion on that. There is how would I say, the patients that with diabetes and normally get a lot of callus, they normally don't exactly feel it very well. So what might not be serious to them might be actually very serious because these kind of calluses, they normally precede wounds inside the foot itself. The hard skin is, well, it's as though walking on a stone all the time. So inside the hard skin, sometimes you will tend to get a bit of skin damage or even wounds inside without noticing. If in doubt, actually, let a doctor see first. That one also, he can decide, make a judgment call whether or not to refer to podiatry or not. Otherwise, if something, well, this kind of thickness, where was sorry? Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, this kind of thickness, right, in the front is probably worth treating already. Okay. There are some wounds that happen with people with diabetes. This one only happens when the blood circulation is really bad. This is not a scab. This is what we consider dead flesh already. As it is now, it's very nice and dry. When it's dry, when it's just bone dry, not exposed to any liquid at all, it will remain as it is. When it gets wet, we will tend to see it getting bigger and bigger. These wounds like that, get medical opinion of it as soon as possible. For patients we see, we do not get wounds like this wet at all, never. When it gets wet, then infection happens again. And also, yes, with any scabs, loose scabs, do not peel because it might restart the wound again. So come to the footwear, this is the most contentious part of my talk. There are many reasons why people do not wear suitable shoes, and also valid reasons. Some patients will say too heavy, some patients have foot deformities that cannot fit into a standard shoe, and some patients, the feet swells a lot and can't fit into standard shoes as well. What I'm going to go through with you all for the footwear is for those patients that are able and willing to use the suitable shoes that we do recommend. So I mean, there is a spectrum. Okay, before that, there is a spectrum of shoes that we would say ranging from no good to best possible. And also for indoors and outdoors, you would probably be using different kind of footwear as well. We don't expect anybody to be wearing sports shoes at home. But definitely for outdoors, these kind of shoes would be most appropriate. At home, given our culture and our habits, some things like this would be a safe compromise already. So basically, the 5 main things for the covered shoes for outdoors would be these 5 features. I'll go through with you these during the interactive parts of my talk. But we are looking at the fastening of the shoe. This prevents excessive movements of the foot. Without a strap, let's say you just had a loafer on, the foot would tend to normally glide forwards and backwards in the shoe. This form of a strap does prevent excessive movement. Combined with number 5, the firm heel counter, these two would keep the foot really firmly in place so that they do not move excessively. With excessive movements, you might tend to observe little scratches, blisterings happening. And those are, well, if not taken care of, can lead to further problems. Number 2 would be having enough space for the toes. Many wounds in the diabetic foot happens in the toes. And the toes are the most dangerous parts to get an infection because these areas don't have a lot of meat. An infection can go through to the bone really easily. Once that happens, it's normally a surgical procedure, depending on the severity for treatment of infected toe. And one more thing would be the sole of the foot. We will only want the shoe to bend in the ball area. Other places like in the arch area should not be able to bend because if that happens, the shoe might twist around the foot as well. So that also can cause excessive rubbing, causing blisters and scratches. And lastly would be adequate cushioning and shock absorption within the shoe itself. This ensures that the pressure in the feet is reduced. With good shoes, actually, the amount of hard skin that forms would not be as significant. The reason why calluses form is because those areas of the foot is getting too much pressure. The skin reacts in a way that protects itself, so it grows extra skin. With proper shock absorption in the foot, we tend to get less of this happening. Okay, so yes, for more things to consider, price is not a good indicator of the safety and suitability of the shoe. The last thing you want is to pay maybe a few $100s for a shoe and find out that it's giving you problems. So it's more of the fitting and the features, which I'll go through with you later, that is important. The location of the straps and fastenings, these things, let's say you have a wound directly underneath the strap. For that period of time until the wound heals, something like this should not be worn because it can further aggravate existing wounds. And for new shoes, so despite all measures to fit a proper shoe, finding the right shoe, what we do recommend is actually to wear new shoes at home, even for covered shoes, for about 2-3 hours, so that you can observe your foot in a controlled environment for any blisters, scratches. If the shoe is found to be unsuitable, at least it hasn't been worn for long enough or dirty so that you can exchange it at least in the shop. Okay, yes, so I'll be going through the features physically with you. I'll be passing you a checklist. It's a lot more detailed than this. and for you to bring home as well, so that you can remind yourselves or educate your family as well. Yes, yes.
Most of the shoes are gold, but the things for the air vibration is not so good. You don't have to take a lot of moisture inside. Most don't have like the wool
Most shoes nowadays come in those kind of breathable materials. It's normally those kind of shoes that are really rubbery or plasticky in the front that normally traps a lot of water inside. Those are leather, sports shoe kind of material should be quite alright. Okay, we will go through with that. You also, at the end of this session, you should be more familiar with what is acceptable and what's not. Yeah. Yes. Yes. As part of the I think I didn't go through. As part of the good habits, shoes, socks in the covered shoes would be highly recommended. Okay. Yes. So. Each of you can have one at last. Enough? Any extras can pass in front. Actually, you can physically use your shoe as well if you would like to. There is hand rubs here. That eventually, if you want to clean your hand after that, just feel free to use this. I'll put this in front. And I'll be using a really boring shoe to go through the features. So toes well covered. Normally we would just keep it as in the toes are not fully exposed. Certain gaps on the top would be alright, as long as the covering would prevent any things from dropping on the foot to injure the skin. So yours actually is mostly covered. Only a few gaps here and there. If you do drop like a bottle of water or a can of drink, it would protect the feet sufficiently. So as long as the toes isn't exposed, actually, that would be reasonably good enough for the first point. The second point, this one requires you to put on a shoe physically, and once you strap down the laces or strap down the Velcro or tie the laces while standing, you would be pressing about a thumb down the front. If you hit a toe, if you hit the nail of the toe or just a bit of the front of the toe, that might be a bit too small already. This allows for, this prevents your toe from rubbing over the front of the shoe too much, because a lot of these things can happen when the shoe is too small. Okay, for the third point, the shoe itself, the front of the shoe should be somewhat quite round, or squarish. And also, if you were to wiggle your toes in the shoe itself, the toe shouldn't be restricted in any way. This prevents your toes from rubbing along the sides or even the top of the shoe. Then, in that case, the chances of any self-induced blisters and scratches will be a lot less. Okay, so I'm going to be going back to this fourth thing to check on the shoe. This is the third point. Flexible at the ball of the foot. I will clarify. If you were to bend the shoe, it should only bend in front, this part. If you were to bend anywhere else, just like this shoe, even the middle part already is pretty flimsy, that would be a fail. And also, if you were to get a shoe and you were to twist it like wring it like a towel, this shoe is not possible. For shoes that you can wring it like a towel, that also would not be safe at all. The shoe can twist around the foot in that case, and problems can happen. Next point, this is about the fastening. So I know there are shoes that perhaps the shoelaces or the Velcro straps perhaps end quite in front, somewhere here. That is not going to provide you enough control of the foot. Your foot will still tend to jerk in front because nothing is going to block the ankle from moving forward. So just bear in mind, for shoes, you would have to have one that ends, the fastening ends right in front of the ankle, not somewhere in between the top of the foot. Okay. Next thing, there are some shoes that have barely any sole. Do not get those. There are cases we have come across, patients that step through a nail and they don't know. They walk for hours and hours on it. They only notice it when they have a fever. That might be 2 days down the road. So you can imagine, just because of a shoe maybe not being very thick enough, then yeah. So that one, to avoid that, the shoe should be reasonably thick at the base and also cushioning, so that the problems with hard skin forming also wouldn't be very, very severe. And lastly, not say lastly, but the next one would be, if you were to buy a shoe, also have a feel inside the shoe. Certain shoes, maybe by manufacturing defects, there might be certain notches or seams inside that would feel quite rough. For the cases like that, do not buy those kind of shoes. Go and feel inside the shoe until it's pretty smooth and not bumpy inside, so that these kind of things will not cause any more injury. And okay, for the heel counter, this would combine with the strap to make the shoe sit in really well, make the foot sit in the shoe really well, prevent excessive movement. The picture there which I show you, right? To test whether it's firm enough, press it in this way. Press it in this way. It should rebound. It should restrict your movement. If the back falls in too much, too flimsy, that shoe also doesn't pass the standard. And besides that, heel height of less than 2 cm, that one, having too high a heel will normally lead to a lot of like muscle tightness and all these things. So that's why it's under 2 centimeters. Heel width not narrower than the shoe width. So the good example would be a high heel shoe. Do not use high heel shoe. The bottom part is thinner than the top. That normally would increase your risk of falling if that's the case. And non-slip sole is just mainly when you check the shoe, after about 1 or 2 years, it will probably wear off at the bottom. That also causes falls. When the floor is too slippery and the shoe isn't exactly gripping very well. So yeah, these are actually the 11 things to take note of and to bring home to so-called go through any potential shoe you might be looking for. Otherwise, that actually concludes my education. Is there any questions you'd like to ask? Yes. Yeah. Any? Yes.
What is athletic food?
Okay. Athlete's food. Yeah.
Why do Hong Kong people call Hong Kong?
Yes.
Is it the same thing?
Same thing.
Why Hong Kong people call Hong Kong food Hong Kong?
I have no idea. Yes, I have no idea.
What is Hong Kong? I heard the rest maybe.
Yeah, that's due to fungus growing on the skin. The fungus would be digesting your skin cells, and the byproducts normally would cause the smell. So yes, athlete's foot is a scientific term for 香港脚. Yes. Scientific term for, yeah, that's the medical term. Yes.
Only they never call Singapore food.
Oh yes, that's right. Yes. Yes.
I have seen an advertisement by they say that you should see an advertisement for customized shoes and also for example. They in the advertisement they even show X-ray people with like OA, no sclerosis and all that. You cover the special insoles and shoes. Because the shoes will definitely be the correct one, because if you go around
Hunting, well, the quick and easy sort of easy way to find shoes. Actually, most sports shoes will already fit the criteria, but I mean, there is the Mary Jane kind of shoe which you can consider also. It has all the features inside. But also, beyond that, actually, if you were to wear a sandal more than a slipper, it will be even safer actually still. Then, I mean, if you were to wear a sandal, walking sandal outdoor rather than a slipper, it would be still even safer than wearing a normal slipper, but wouldn't be as safe as a covered shoe. Yes.
This is more in line with my attitude.
Yes.
Can I ask something else? Shoes for other like musculoskeletal, because of me, they come with musculoskeletal
Problems are
affected, right?
Okay.
So they say they can correct this by wearing high-vis.
Normally from those kind of wear and tear conditions, OA, possibly reversible, but not exactly very well proven. The shoes and insoles can give you that comfort and prevent you from aggravating the areas. That in itself actually would be quite acceptable for a lot of people who have chose to buy customized shoes and insoles after that.
For diabetic patient as well, what is your advice in the sense that because they say their shoes, the front must be very stiff, like just like you say twisting the arch there, of course the one is not. The front and the back, they're very stiff, but as though there's a steel inside.
Those kind of customized shoes? Or, okay.
They mentioned Adidas Super Star range is if you don't want customers, the cost is very costly.
Sounds quite alright actually. I don't have any issues with shoes like that also. But I mean, diabetes does not cause OA. So I mean, if you were to just treat OA alone, right, you would probably need to have suitable shoes and some form of insoles to help you with walking also. So yeah, you can combine a reasonable shoe like this with other options like your insoles and stuff. That should be okay also. Because I think what the shoes they are recommending and what we have here is not too far off already. Because I mean, a suitable shoe, the back itself is quite firm already. The front being too hard, just because of diabetes, you maybe would be wanting to make sure that it's not too tight. Because once it's too tight and when it's very hard in front, then if the toe keeps ramming onto the front of the shoe, then that's when accidents can happen. Insoles, not every diabetes patient need insoles. Only those with very severe deformities or I didn't put the photo because it's a very graphic one of wounds. Those wounds below the foot, that happens when they step in the area excessively and they don't feel the pain as a result of the nerve damage. Those wounds like that, to heal it, you will have to reduce the amount of pressure in the area as much as possible. We use that through insoles. But for a standard foot, I mean, appearance normal, walking normal, it's very likely that something like this is enough to prevent all that unwanted injuries and infections are happening. Yes. 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 We do not force you. We're not forcing you all to wear sports shoes at home. But barefoot is the worst possible state to be in, because you might step on something wrong in the house. Yes. So yes, I mean sandals, a reasonably cushioned slipper itself is somewhat permissible at home already. Crocs would be giving you the added benefit of protecting the toes as well. That would be up to personal preference already like this. Yes. Yes. Oh, okay, sure. This one, right? Yes. Okay. Yes. Any other questions, actually? Yes?
My neighbor, senior, cut out his foot.
Okay.
He see a wheelchair due to his sickness. Then he's not going to install the force foot. So is your advice, because infection may come back. To break cancer, why don't the doctor just stop it? Or if the infection come up, the then cut off. You get what I mean? So where you stop the
Above knee.
no here.
Okay.
Instead here, because you're not going to install the. It's better. No, your bit is better. You cannot expect this cut from here. You get what I mean?
Yes.
If you're going to install a force, okay, cut. Because it's a senior.
That one.
Voice of view. Cancer Singaporean, you will cut here.
No lah. Also, but actually the amount to cut off is dependent on the surgeon. They would be looking at blood circulation, extent of infection, potential to heal as well. But by statistics alone, for patients who have only up to this amount removed, they tend to end up being able to walk better, recover faster also. Actually, but let's say, I mean, it's so very traumatic to remove a lot of the leg.
The chances the infection come back again high.
As long as there's a wound, there's always going to be a chance of infection. So actually, as maybe the wound smaller would be less chance. Really depends. It's not for me to say how much to cut also. The surgeon does all the judgment calls. Yes. Yes.
Shall we put a hand of applause for Mr. Kenneth Koh? Thank you, Mr. Kenneth, for your insightful sharing.